Hey everybody, this is Mike with the One Stop Co-op Shop, and today I'm reviewing Agemonia, the 1 to 4 player cooperative adventure narrative campaign game. You and your companions will wander around the fantasy world of Agemonia, having different adventures, fighting and exploring in scenarios in diverse locales, with story cards revealing new surprises and events as you explore. Your characters will level up, gaining new powers, equipment, and exploring their own personal narrative adventure. So let's dig a little deeper and discuss 5 things about Agemonia. So for my number 5 point, I'm focusing on the city phase and the events you explore in between the scenarios in the game. And this is generally a pro for my taste. You and the other players will get to go to different locations, each having their own little flavor text, and this will evolve as you level up through the campaign, so you'll learn more about the city and its people. And there are lots of fun options to spend your money and interact with, again, growing as you play. And also in between the scenarios, you'll have fun city and world events, and these will give you choose your own adventure type choices, tough moral decisions, give you cool rewards, and even the main storyline itself, while it does go into some fantasy cliches and could be fleshed out even more, is pretty good and kept me engaged in the narrative of the campaign. My number 4 point is more mixed on the game, and this is where I'm combining both the enemies you fight and the timers in many of the scenarios because they kind of achieve a similar effect. As you're going off on your adventure, in most scenarios you'll have enemies pop up, and while a few scenarios do focus on killing them as the main goal, often they just sort of get in your way, continuously spawn, and it does take a little while to fight them. The enemies, especially at high player counts, tend to be sort of meat sponges, and you really have to focus for many turns to fight. Additionally, almost every scenario has some sort of timer using these fate cards. It'll either have more people spawning or end the scenario suddenly. And kind of like the fighting, this might be frustrating or annoying for some players. It's limiting your exploration, forcing you to hurry. But the positives of both the enemies and these timers is that it is what gives the game its major tension and variety, and really its strategic choices. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here, but some people are going to wish that sometimes the enemies and the timers would just go away and they could freely explore to their heart's content. For my number 3 point, I'm focusing on the core action and stamina system in the game, and this is a pro with some caveats. So in each round, you get to pick which action you're going to do, and that controls the likely initiative order of the round, which is determined for the heroes and the enemies by a card draw. I think this whole system is great. You have some expectation of how quickly or slowly you'll go, and you can try to sort of mitigate things with the enemies in that way. I think that's fun. But the actual choices themselves aren't always as exciting. If you get into a fight, you might just keep on using the same attack over and over again. When you're not fighting, often the extra maneuver just to get you to move and recover more is going to be your choice. But putting that aside, I do love the stamina and wound system. As you do things like get extra moves or extra actions, you spend stamina. As you take damage, you take the same stamina and flip it over, and some actions will heal you and some actions will recover you. It's a really cool system of resource management, give and take, and trying to balance the costs and recovery is great. And then finally, I do want to give a shout out to the action resolution system, which is dice based. All these dice always have at least one hit on them. They have exploding crits, which I tend to love. And then 2 faces have this side where you can spend your stamina to get up to 2 successes. So in a way it's worse because it costs you stamina, but in a way it's better than the single success side because you can get 2 successes out of it. So I think the dice are great. You never have a roll that feels too terrible, and often they can be really exciting and tense. My number 2 point is focused on the characters themselves, and this is generally a full pro for my taste. So first of all, the leveling, while it doesn't happen too frequently, is a lot of fun. You'll unlock new actions, and you can freely mix and match them based on the scenario. And eventually, you'll just have a ton of different things equipped. And speaking of equipment, you'll get more and more neat items and abilities, and you can level them up and have crafting systems. You also pretty quickly get to choose a class for your hero. It's going to open up even more special abilities and combos, and you can learn different professions like pet training, giving you even more kind of uniqueness and options for your character. And then I mentioned in the intro, each character has a storybook where they explore their own narrative. But in any case, playing around with these characters is great, and I can totally see myself playing through the campaign again just to experience new characters and their storylines and options. But for my number 1 point, a huge pro for my taste at least is the exploration and the scenario design. As I mentioned in the intro, your characters will explore these maps, and as they get close enough to different events, then you'll have different little narrative things happen, and you can interact with them in different ways. They'll even change up the terrain itself and like reveal hidden passageways and things. And the scenarios themselves are incredibly varied. Travel scenarios, protection scenarios, exploration scenarios, arena combat, and they do so many cool, clever things with them. But two important caveats here. First of all, you can certainly learn a scenario, like exactly what you might want to do and not do. And if you have a good memory, because there are tons of scenarios, but if you remember a scenario the second time you play through it, it's certainly going to make things way easier and more straightforward. And then the second caveat is that sometimes there are frustrating aspects in the discovery, because you might go to like a certain place and spawn a horrific monster, and if you had never gone there, that monster wouldn't be in the scenario and wouldn't be bothering you. So exploration and discovery cuts both ways. Sometimes you find an amazing treasure, sometimes you find a slime trying to melt your face. So overall, you might not like Agemonia if you don't want a lot of narrative reading in your game, if you don't want some randomness, if you want infinite replayability. But for me, it is easy to say this is my, so far, #1 game of 2024. I know it's pretty early in the year, but as many amazing games as are coming, I can't imagine this not being in at least my top 3 by the end of the year. It is that good. I am that enthralled by it. This is like my dream adventure game in a lot of ways. So if you are into adventure games and narrative games, I think this one is certainly worth checking out. And I did a partial playthrough with not that many spoilers, so you can kind of see what you think for yourself. But thanks for watching, everybody. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.